So now we're going to move on from Carola in Spain. We're going to move to Brazil with Andreia Nobre. She's going to give us an update on Brazil, and I would like to introduce you to Andreia. She has been some of the times here at Feminist Question Time, but just in case you haven't heard of her, she's a journalist at QG Feminist and 4W, and she's the author of the Grumpy Guide to Radical Feminism. So Andreia, thank you very much for being here with us today, and over to you.
In April 2025, following the repercussions of important developments, like the release of the CAS report on best practice regarding puberty blockers and the UK Supreme Court ruling on the legal definition of a woman being based on biological sex, the Brazilian Medical Council announced that it was raising the age for hormones treatments from the age of 16 to 18 years old. They raised the age in which the individuals can seek for body modification surgeries from the age of 18 to the age of 21. And it also banned the prescription of puberty blockers for children and adolescents with gender dysphoria. However, just a few weeks later, at the end of May 2025, the UN decided to release a report recommending Brazil to legally recognize the existence of trans children and adopt measures to ensure respect for their gender identity. The report was published, this recommendation was published in the report produced by the Committee on the Rights of the Child. This was the result of lobbying by the founder of an organization called My Trans Child, a Brazilian organization, in April 2024, who sent reports to the CEDAW session last year and asked the UN to demand that the Brazilian government established public policies that guaranteed the safety of this portion of the population. Here are some of the highlights of this report. So in the topic, general principles, the committee is deeply concerned about the profound and adverse impact of deep-rooted and pervasive intersecting forms of discrimination against Afro-Brazilian quilombolas. Quilombolas are people in Brazil who live in the quilombos. The quilombos are the original places where enslaved Black people went to if they somehow got freed from slavery, even by escaping or after slavery was abolished in Brazil. So Afro-Brazilians, quilombolas, indigenous and Roma children, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex children, girls, children with disabilities, migrant children, and children living in rural, remote, and urban peripheral areas, including reports of hate crimes. So they included here transgender, intersex children, in an adverse impact of deep-rooted and pervasive intersect forms of discrimination, and also saying lesbian, gay, bisexual children. So in the topic called Right to Identity, the committee recommends that the state party, Brazil, recognize the right to identity of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex children, and put in place measures to ensure that they all enjoy the freedom of expression and respect for their physical and psychological integrity, gender identity, and emerging autonomy. Adopt legislation that recognizes the existence of the transgender children and their rights. Another topic in the report goes like this: violence against children. ensure that children who experienced bullying, discrimination, or harassment and any other forms of violence, including transgender children, Afro-Brazilian, Indigenous, and Quilombola children, receive protection and support. Mental health. The committee recommends that the state party adopt specific measures for the children most at risk to commit suicide and mutilate themselves, particularly transgender and indigenous children. Ensure specific health care and programs for transgender children and adolescents tailored to individual needs and ensure appropriate psychological support. Trafficking. The committee reiterates its previous concluding observations, and it recommends that the state party adopt culturally and gender-sensitive measures for the protection of children and adolescents, particularly Afro-Brazilians, Quilombola, and indigenous children, migrant and transgender children. In other bad news, the Federal Public Ministry, Brazilian justice system, is taking legal action against an influencer who described himself as a Christian therapist for publishing discriminatory content on social media, attacking trans children and adolescents. The accusations against the influencer include posting in 2023 an image of a family taking part in a pride parade with the group organized by the NGO Trans Child, and for a video named "Do Trans Children Exist?", claiming that the video has a denialist tone about transgenderism in childhood. The Federal Public Ministry claims that the posts encouraged hate speech and were widely replicated by politicians and influencers with transphobic messages. The prosecutors say that the posts violated the honor and dignity of trans and transvestite people, fostering prejudice against a historically vulnerable group. So the legal action was brought forward by an LGBTI National Alliance organization who claim that they took this measure after attempts to recommend a public retraction and the publication of educational content by the influencer, who allegedly refused to take responsibility and did not adopt the proposed recommendations. According to the Federal Public Ministry, freedom of expression, this is all over Brazilian media outlets. So according to the Federal Public Ministry, freedom of expression, although fundamental, is not absolute. Discriminatory speech is not part of the essential core of this right and cannot be tolerated under the pretext of opinion or belief, the action claims. The Supreme Federal Court has already ruled that demonstrations that incite discrimination or violence against LGBTQIAPN+ people are not protected by freedom of expression. So here's what Brazil has been dealing with lately. It begs belief that anyone can actually think that puberty is a disease to be medically treated if a child says that they are not of the sex they were born, due to adults around them acting up on sexual fetishes of sissy porn. Meanwhile, several women and men are still being sued in Brazil, myself included, for questioning gender identity ideology and the harms they cause to children and adults of both sexes, and to women and girls' sex-based rights. But at least we have, since 2023, the association called Matria, who has been working tirelessly to ensure that the Brazilian government understands the risks of allowing men in women-only spaces such as prisons, hospital wards, toilets, changing rooms, shelters, sports, and opportunities created for women and girls. So if you can, support Matre in any way you can by following them on social media, giving them some visibility. The work is remarkably similar to the work of groups such as Sex Matters and For Women Scotland, and your solidarity would be much appreciated, as together we will be all stronger to demolish this harmful ideology that threatens democratic processes worldwide. I just would like to say that, as I said during the panel, I am being sued in Brazil as well for reporting on a man who was trying to do a Yaniv in Brazil, to have his genitals waxed. So I reported on him, and he sued me in Salon and Medium. I lost my Medium account for that. So at the moment, just a quick update. My lawyer says that they had been given some time to respond, and if they don't respond in due time, the chances are that the lawsuit is going to be dismissed and I'm going to be free as a bird, hopefully. About, there was not questions, but some people were like, I'm an old grumpy lady, so the Grumpy Guide to Radical Feminism is might be a handbook for me. Since we have people from all over the world here, just let you know that the Grumpy Guide to Radical Feminism is a way for supporting me with this lawsuit, for instance, is in 8 languages. So that's it from me.